Where was the LDS church? Where was the Mormons? Where were the Mormons in this? Your entire goal is to have as many children as possible so that you increase your congregation, you have kids that can go out on missions to try and increase the word of your church. Which, whatever, like, you're free to do that. I don't believe in your church. I'm Catholic. But I don't understand how you allowed this abuse to continue for over a decade.
Had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. It's a good chance he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
This is the story of a mum who rose to fame on YouTube by posting videos on family and childcare.
What do you do when you're disciplining your kid and they make you laugh?
The case of disgraced YouTuber Ruby Franke and her cult leader friend Jody Hildebrandt continues. In this video, we'll highlight all of the latest updates from evidence revealed by arrest warrants to testimonies from people affected by the defendants. Stay tuned to find out everything you need to know about this ongoing case. Ruby Franke and Jody Hildebrandt were arrested on the 30th of August 2023, and they were charged with 6 counts each of felony child abuse. For those just coming across these names, we'll begin with a little backstory of the case. 2 years after the birth of their last child, Ruby and Kevin Franke uploaded their first YouTube video, sometime in January of 2015. This family channel was called 8 Passengers.
Yeah, and she was treating her 3-year-old as though she should be making adult decisions about, like, waking up on time to get to preschool. And she wasn't actually going in the room as a mom and waking her up. Come on, Ruby. Oh my God. This is before Jody's in the picture, as far as we know. Jody supposedly was only in the picture for the last 3 years. Eve, who was the child in that video, is now 10. In that video, she's 2.
And it was run mostly by Ruby. At its peak, this channel had about 2.5 million subscribers. Ruby posted seemingly everything.
I didn't even see that footage before. I had heard about her making her kids sleep in bathrooms, but I hadn't seen, like, she actually put it on her fucking YouTube channel. Oh my God. And the cops just, you know what? Between this and the Eugenia Cooney story, it's like, how can you have an argument against defund the police when clearly they do not respond to child abuse situations, to mental health situations appropriately, right? They don't see it as part of their what they have to manage. If it's not something that they manage, then we need some funds for the appropriate responders. What the hell even, right? We need to allocate some of those funds to Child Protective Services and to mental health professionals so that they're coming in and actually handling these situations, because clearly local PD is not getting it done.
That should be hidden from the public.
No texting at the dinner table.
Let me see it. I really like you.
At first, people were concerned about violating the kids' privacy.
Yeah, Kevin, that was really fucked up. You don't do that to your kid. You do not embarrass your kid at the dinner table in front of... He's at the appropriate age to start forming relationships with whoever he wants to partner up with. Whether it be a girl, whether it be a boy, whatever it is. Not your goddamn business. Why are you doing that? Why are you embarrassing your son at the table?
But in time, other forms of abuse became more glaring. The more Ruby continued to consciously highlight her parenting and disciplinary principles, the more people began to see.
I'm only going to say it one more time, and then you're going to lose the privilege to eat dinner. One more thing in my house.
Dude, she was so proud of being a bully. Ruby was so proud of being a bully over her kids. That's what you were, Ruby. You were a goddamn bully. You were not reading them bedtime stories. You're not singing with them. You were not playing with them. You were not doing positive activities with the children. You were tormenting them on camera and putting it on your YouTube stream.
I'm going to take the scissors, look at me, and I'm going to cut its head off.
Because I will be so mad.
So what are you going to do?
Are you going to cut anything else? No.
You promise?
Oh my god.
Look at Mama. I just got a text message from Eve's teacher,
Okay,
and
bitch.
she said that Eve did not pack a lunch today, and can I bring a lunch over to the school? This happens quite often when
Eve is 6 at this point. She's 6. And this bitch is expecting that her daughter at age 6 is gonna not only pack her lunch, but remember to put it in her backpack. This crazy bitch. I can't even.
you're having raising children, because I know that her teacher is uncomfortable with her being hungry and not having a lunch. And it would ease her discomfort if I came to the school with a lunch. But I responded and just said, Eve is responsible for making her lunches in the morning, and she actually told me she did pack a lunch. So the natural outcome is she's just going to need to be hungry.
Wow.
And hopefully nobody gives her food and nobody steps in and gives her a lunch.
Videos like this sparked a whole new discussion as some viewers started to worry about the safety of these kids. In 2020, a video was posted about the second oldest brother, Chad. He admitted that he had gotten into trouble for playing a prank on his younger brother. As a result, he had to sleep on a beanbag chair for 7 months.
My bedroom was taken away for 7 months, and then you give it back like a couple of weeks ago.
I don't think our viewers know that.
Sleeping on a beanbag.
I was sleeping on a beanbag since October, and they gave my room back like 2 weeks ago. I'll give you the reason why I lost my bedroom. I think so. I think this is the reason. At least this is the reason that's in my head. So pretty funny, but now that I look back, it was pretty depressing.
No, we never told our viewers.
That I woke Russell up at 2 in the morning and told him that we're going to Disneyland and he has to pack. And he got up and made his bed all neatly and then packed all his clothes in the suitcase. And then he walked out the door and I'm like, Russell, he was like, what? And he's all happy. Has his sunglasses on.
Do you think it's funny? Because
And then I walk out and
if you think it's funny, then that was 7 months ago. Maybe you need longer without a bedroom.
it was not funny.
Russell got the big bedroom and Chad got the smaller bedroom. And Russell's bigger bedroom also had a bathroom. But what you guys didn't know was Chad didn't get any room. He didn't get anything. He was sleeping on the floor in the family room. Abby, we took the phone away from Abby.
Why? Why are you putting all this shit up online? Like, when we discipline our kids, we're not, like, recording it and putting it online, you know? Sure, I've cut, like, internet access before for, like, 24 hours or something. But this is ridiculous. Why would you be like, hey, look, my son made a mistake, and so therefore I'm going to put it online, right? not to mention that it seems that every man in your life at this point has been accused of sexual deviance, porn addiction. You know, it's just how do you live like that? That's so crazy.
In November, and
That's
and
not
you may never get the phone back.
Probably not.
No, I have no friends.
You can play with friends.
No, like I don't have friends.
Which,
don't have-
by the way, that's an important detail to remember because Kevin apparently was trying to sue Sherry or get her criminally charged with burglary for picking up some of the electronic devices in the house when she was retrieving items for the kids. Not only the kids, she now has custody of 2 of the children, and 2 of the other children are in foster care. And she was retrieving items for all 4 of these kids, including some electronic devices. And Kevin literally tried to press criminal charges against her for burglary, for trying to retrieve these items for these kids. So nobody should feel sorry for Kevin.
I literally like told my friends I'm not hanging out with them anymore.
Because they're
They say some pretty messed up stuff.
I don't even know where they live. They're pretty far away.
So, summer goal, become the best athlete I possibly can.
Then in 2022, the 8-passenger channel vanished entirely, but these videos resurfaced and have since been used against Ruby Franke in child abuse charges. So what's new? To begin with, several victims of Ruby and Jody have come forward to share their traumatic experiences. You would be shocked to find that the details shared have made this case even more disturbing. The fact that these first-hand accounts closely parallel the events currently taking place within Ruby's family is what makes them so alarming. Additionally, it implies that Jody's sinister behavior has actually been going on for about a decade. But how did she get into the lives of the Frankes? It all began when Ruby and Kevin started experiencing problems in their marriage. They then made the decision to see a therapist. That therapist turned out to be Jody, and the bishops of the Mormon Church reportedly recommended her highly. After Kevin and Ruby thought their oldest son Chad was displaying serious behavioral issues, Jody also had sessions with him. She was the one who originally suggested their contentious decision to send him to the Wilderness Behavior Camp. It really is starting to look like she may have been responsible for many of their parenting choices. In order to teach her clients to live in truth, Jody founded a self-help style therapy program called Connections. Ruby eventually became entangled in the program and came to the conclusion that she and her kids needed to leave what she referred to as distortion. Jody coined that phrase to refer to anything she thought was bad about people, including addiction, codependency, dishonesty, and other human traits.
3 men have come forward to say that they went to Jody for family counseling but were railroaded into porn and sex addiction treatment, even though they did not suffer from those problems.
Over the years, Jody's professional license had been once suspended due to her violation of HIPAA laws. She had given the church officials private information regarding one of her clients.
Another man named Adam Paul Steed says that he sought counseling from Hildebrandt and says that his life was absolutely upended when she, as a counselor, broke privilege and shared his private thoughts with his church, his wife, and his university.
Both women must have forged a close relationship. Before long, Ruby became Jody's business partner. She served as a co-host for Connections and started promoting radical ideas about living in truth. The closer they became, the more Ruby distanced herself and her children from everyone, including her husband Kevin. Like the 8-passenger channel, Connections had its fair share of critics who raised questions about their teachings. They must have seen the potential dangers of the teachings. Still, we don't think anyone anticipated that Ruby and Jody would actually turn to physically harming Ruby's own children. The day of reckoning came on August 30th when Russell, the youngest son of Ruby, managed to escape from a window of Jody's isolated residence in Utah.
911.
Trigger warning, trigger warning, trigger warning. The 911 call is pretty hard to listen to because the neighbor is comes across as pretty trustworthy, right? He is surprised by this situation, and he's discovering it in the moment, right? So the 911 call, I think, is probably going to be the most compelling evidence against them when they get sentenced to probably life in prison for the bullshit they did.
The address of your emergency. Okay, and the phone number you're calling from. Tell me exactly what's happened.
I just had a 12-year-old boy show up here at my front door asking for help. And he's said he just came from a neighbor's house, and we know there's been problems at this neighbor's house. He's emaciated, he's got tape around his legs, he's hungry, and he's thirsty.
Okay. Is your door locked?
No, I'm sitting outside with him on the front patio. His ankles are taped up, and he won't tell us why.
Okay.
But he has duct tape around each ankle. Yeah, there's sores around him. I think there's a good chance he's been... Oh, and he has them around his ankles. I mean, his wrists as well. Okay, this boy has been... This kid has obviously been... I think he's been detained. He's obviously covered in wounds.
The Frank children were all taken into state custody after the police showed up. In the meantime, Kevin Frank lawyered himself up and seems bent on fighting for custody of his kids. It will be interesting to see how that turns out. You see, many people actually think he should be charged as well. One for his conceivable complicity in this case, and also for his participation in prior abuse that was captured on camera and posted to the YouTube channel. While that doesn't look like it will happen, Ruby Frank and her partner, Jody Hildebrandt, appeared in court for the first time on the 8th of September. As you know, this is one widely covered case because the public is heavily invested in the outcome of the process. This is why thousands of YouTubers and regular viewers tuned in to the live stream of the virtual hearing. Amid the proceedings, the virtual hearing crashed.
At one point, one of the lawyers outside the court told everyone that even the judge was having a hard time signing on to the online hearing with as many as 1,200 observers. Some people even showed up in person to see the latest in a case that had both captivated and concerned them.
More chaos ensued as some individuals neglected to turn off their microphones, began shouting at one another, and generally behaved inappropriately and immaturely in the background. In the end, the judge adjourned.
Oh, come on. Come on, court. How can you not know how to manage a Zoom? For real? Oh my god. You don't know how to, like, set up a Zoom in which people are just viewers and they're not participants, and they can, like, drop things in the chat if they have questions, but they don't have mic access. Like, that's literally an option on Zoom. Oh my god.
...to the case and consequently banned public access from further proceedings. Reputable media outlets are permitted to be physically present in the courtroom, and the judge has also agreed to send a copy of the proceedings to those who would be denied entry. Following this, Jody's lawyer stated that a motion for an expedited hearing would be submitted. A motion to assign both women to the same judge will also be made in a similar manner. A shelter hearing to choose the appropriate family for the 4 minor Frank kids was held in juvenile court. This was when Ruby made some serious and very troubling accusations against her son Russell. We use the word disturbing because it is vile for a mother to say such things about her young son, whom she is accused of already abusing. Ruby essentially charged Russell with inappropriately touching other kids, including Eve. According to her, he admitted to touching 20 different people, including neighbors and various family members, and she explained that he allegedly pretended this behavior was a padding game. Ruby also claimed that he...
She is a very sick woman. That she's been abusing her children this way and defaming them. I mean, the shit that she said about her 12-year-old she is a very sick woman, and she's a danger to society.
Been addicted to pornography since he was 3. Even without context, this seems like an orchestrated story. If this padding game had been going on for so long, why didn't she get him help? If so many other kids were victims, why didn't she report it? Surely tying up the boy in her friend's basement and essentially starving him and the other kids was not the way to go, right? Again, footage from the 8 passengers can be used as evidence at this point. The whole family typically always had nothing but wonderful things to say about Russell.
Incredibly mature for his age. His ability to empathize with other people and to connect with them at an age of 10 is very, like, he truly thinks about other people and doesn't think about himself. And he's been that way ever since he was a little kid.
Yeah, he's just born that way.
Russell's sincerity. I don't think Russell knows how to tell a lie if he tried. He's so honest. I love his willingness to share. He's very generous. I like that he's like unapologetically himself.
When I was his age, and that was not him. I was not empathic at all, but there's just a lot of empathy.
I like how he forgives me no matter what I do.
Oh, he was very forgiving, isn't he?
Ruby would brazenly withhold food and other necessities from the kids for mistakes that kids should be allowed to make, and those were lesser offences. So how come this habit never made it to the 8 passengers channel? This appears to be an attempt by Ruby and Jody to defend themselves in case they were discovered. The judge then ruled that Russell must live in a home without any other children until the allegations have been investigated. Could it have been just a strategy to keep the younger children apart? Around that time, Jesse Hildebrandt, a relative of Jody Hildebrandt, sat for an interview. Jesse clearly claimed that their family has a long history of child abuse, including the use of duct tape, and that this case has deeper roots than the public is aware of. In the process of exposing Jody, she shed some much-needed light on the sexual accusations made against Russell.
And she is remarkably convincing. She is also terrifying if you cross her, because she has and will systematically destroy your life. She destroys your reputation. She destroys any of your credibility. Because one, we have a culture of people not believing children and not trusting children. And also, children trust their parents. And then the parents trust the church. So there's been, and Jody, what she does that's so tricky is that she utilizes and uses whatever is available. So if you go to her with OCD.
So let's go back to that. Where are you, LDS? Where are you, Mormon Church? Why aren't you saying something about how your bishops were referring couples and families to this crazy bitch?
If you go to her with severe depression, she'll use that information as a way of control. Oh, you have OCD because you have deep-rooted shame. And those tics are happening because the shame has nowhere to go. And so it's coming out in this neuroticism. It's devastating because I went forward as well. I mean, I went to the police when I was 16. I tried to do what I could. And no one believed me. Because why would they? She destroyed my credibility. I was an angry teenager. The only reason I'm coming forward, I was not planning on coming forward to the media other than just doing the podcast interview. Is when I heard that Ruby accused her child of this, and I just hope that this can give the public some context and some clarity of what is happening and why they should not believe her.
Since this is a case of public interest, reputable lawyers have spoken to media outlets and have given their opinions on the case. One of such is Johnny Depp's former lawyer, Ben Chu. In an interview with Jesse Weber on the Law and Crime Network, he explains why he thinks Ruby's accusations against her children will ultimately harm her case in the future.
Claimed that 2 of her children were playing some sort of hatting game, didn't go into further detail, talked about how one of the children was watching pornography at a young age. It's so shocking, and I'm not sure what that means to her defense or what that means to her case.
He also raised an excellent point, that Russell and perhaps even Eve may sue Ruby for defamation in the future. Sky Lazaro, who is an attorney for Corey Richins, another bad mother we've covered on this channel, has also offered her perspective on the situation. She is sure that this case against Ruby and Jody might not go to trial because children are involved. She explains that in cases involving child abuse and other harmful behavior, attorneys on both sides usually try their hardest to reach a settlement in order to spare the kids from having to testify in court and reliving their trauma.
The state doesn't want to put the kids on to have to talk about it again. Nobody wants to cross-examine them, ever.
Kevin's lawyer, Randy Kester, also had a conversation with Jesse Weber of Law and Crime Network. During this interview, he explained why Kevin Frank was allegedly not present during the abuse. Prior to the arrest, he claimed that Ruby and Kevin had been apart for roughly 13 months. Randy gave more context to the situation, but we bet you can already guess who was the brain behind the separation. Evidently, Ruby and Kevin's differences of opinion regarding their parenting had led to more problems between them. Looking back at the older videos of the 8 Passengers channel, it is safe to assume that Kevin and Ruby once shared the same parenting philosophies. Therefore, whatever new techniques Jody was teaching Ruby must have been really awful and extreme if he ultimately stopped supporting it.
Why were they separated? What was the catalyst?
I probably shouldn't go into that. That's pretty private. But let's just say they had a difference of opinion about their family.
Parenting? I know you can't talk about it, but is it that kind of where we're going?
So he couldn't just put his foot down and say, Jody needs to move out? Because she was living in their house and keeping them in separate bedrooms and shit? And moving in on his wife? He couldn't just say, no, Jody needs to go. Why was this a problem for you, Kevin?
Correct.
To be fair, most of the criticisms were directed at Ruby when the 8 Passengers channel was still in operation. Kevin did not really experience any severe backlash as a result of the abuse, but the same can't be said for Ruby Frank and her partner, Jody Hildebrandt. Additionally, family members have spoken out, seemingly in Kevin's favor. They claimed that sometime between 2021 and 2022, Jody moved in with Kevin and Ruby after they turned to her for support regarding their home life and romantic relationship. And what was Jody's first course of action? Keeping the couple away from each other. Jody had them living and sleeping on separate sides of the house, and would not allow Ruby to speak to Kevin unless she was present. After a while, it makes sense that Kevin would stop being okay with Jody's therapy, because it was causing more harm than good to his family. Do you think it's possible that Jody did all of this to isolate Ruby, so that she could establish a sinister hold on her? And if all her niece said about her is anything to go by, then anything Kevin must have tried to do at that point would have worked against him. His resistance would have been classified as a distortion, proving that Jody is right to remove him from his family's life. Randy has given life to this theory as he claimed that Ruby was the one who compelled Kevin to leave the house, and that he only did so out of a desire to protect his family.
They were separated, I read, for 13 months, so they weren't living with each other. How much was he seeing the kids?
Almost not at all. Actually, not at all.
Why is that? Why is that?
Because she told him it was better, that they needed to work on their marriage and needed to keep their family together, but that everything was better off with him not in the home and not communicating with the children.
However, there are still some faults to be found with Kevin Frank. Ruby had insisted that he block all of the children's phone numbers, and that she would call him only if he was needed. If he knew to some extent how malicious Jody could be, why would he leave his family in her hands for months and agree not to communicate with them?
These were your kids too, Kevin. Like, why does Ruby have entire control over the family? And obviously she did such a piss poor job that she's probably going to be locked up for the rest of her life. Why would you be like, okay, yes, Ruby, I want to repair my relationship with you, and you can do whatever with the kids. Obviously you didn't give a shit, dude.
It was wonderful to see that some former clients of Jody Hildebrandt were coming forward with some damning revelations against Connections and its teachings. Some of these testimonies reveal why Kevin probably went along with it. Adam Paul Steed, came forward and admitted that Jody had once destroyed his life. She had reported everything he told her in confidence to the church officials, and added claims that he was addicted to explicit content. This led to his divorce. Isn't this familiar? First, Jesse Hildebrandt, then Russell Franke. This is definitely a pattern with Jody. Days later, another former client, Trey Warner, came forward to describe a very similar incident from his own time with Jody. Trey Warner claimed in an interview that Jody would employ manipulation techniques to convince people, mostly men, that they posed a threat to their families. Jody claims to specialize in helping people overcome their addiction to explicit content and related behaviors, so it was simple to use such things to her advantage. She would humiliate people and even give them the impression that there was something wrong with them for having human emotions and behaviors. Trey claimed that while he and his wife initially attended connections, they soon discovered that Jody had other intentions. During one of their group meetings, he also brought up a specific circumstance. He mentioned a man in his class who ran a very successful business and had a good family. This man freely admitted to looking twice at a woman he found alluring. Then Jody said that he was a threat to his wife and children because his thoughts were impure. Would you believe that Jody was able to convince that man to rent another apartment and move away from his family?
The angry comments coming into the Connections Classroom social media pages now are just the beginning, according to former client Trey Warner. He joined a support group at the recommendation of a friend trying to improve his marriage. But after a while, he says he grew more suspicious of what Jody Hildebrandt was teaching.
It started to feel more and more evil. And I finally, in one of the group meetings, I got up and I just said, this is a man that had successful business that believed that he was a danger to his wife and his family because he did a double take. As a woman, like if he saw a beautiful woman, he would see and he'd look again. This guy got his own apartment and separated from his family because he was a danger.
In some cases, Warner claims husbands were separated from their families for so long, they were considering suicide.
They felt so sick and like such a failure that they just felt like they shouldn't be here anymore.
Given all the accusations that Jody is facing, it is conceivable that she may have planned the entire incident. Jody might have convinced Kevin that he posed a threat to his family and that he should stay away until he had fixed himself before coming home. This brings up the interview with Jesse Hildebrandt, who explained the first-hand abuse Jody dealt with years ago. Jesse believes that while Ruby should not be exonerated of her crimes, it is also a fact that Jody is the mastermind of it all.
I understand this, but it's interesting to watch the world respond to her and kind of putting her at the forefront. And I understand that she's the mother of these children, and it makes sense. But the philosophies and the therapeutic modalities that she's using are Jody's, and these are not new. These are not. This is a pattern that Jody has been engaged with for at least 14 years. I don't know if there are other people that she's used these on, but she's definitely taught. I know that she teaches parents to use these types of therapies, as she would call them.
Jody has now given up her certification as a mental health counselor. There has also been some sort of serious medical condition that kept Jody in the hospital for several days. As a result of this, her lawyer has requested that the bond hearing be expedited. Lastly, let's go over the initial arrest reports, as there are some details that the public was not privy to weeks ago. The arrest warrant has provided fresh information about the police response on the day both women were arrested. The warrant states that duct tape was used to bind Franke's child and cover their abrasions. Apparently the police had arrived at that home in Ivins, Utah, and they had discovered an emaciated 12-year-old victim who claimed Jody Hildebrandt tied them up with a rope and put cayenne pepper in their wounds. According to the report from August, the victim informed officers that Jody put the ropes on their ankles and wrists, and that they used cayenne pepper and honey to dress the wounds. The police also discovered 2 sets of handcuffs, ropes, and duct tape in the Hildebrandt home. When called, Jody immediately requested a lawyer and steadfastly refused to speak with the police. However, the warrants revealed that after the police searched her home, they discovered 2 used medical gauze dressings close to a cayenne pepper and honey paste. In the documents, the police also noted that Ruby Franke left her 3 children in the care of Jody Hildebrandt. In addition, 5 Mac computers and 3 iPhones found in the home were seized by the police. According to Deseret News, this was all in a search warrant report that was issued by the Santa Clara Ivins Police Department. The court...
Which makes it even more confusing that Kevin's he was trying to pursue criminal charges against his daughter, who now has custody of at least 2 of the kids, for stealing electronic devices. Give me a goddamn break. They already had a search warrant for that bullshit.
Appearance for both women were originally scheduled for Monday, but the hearing was postponed to a date after the 5th of October 2023. It will be intriguing to see how this case develops over the coming weeks and months. We are certain that more evidence will come to light. Do you think that Jody and Ruby will eventually turn against one another? Do share your thoughts with us in the comments.
Yeah, I think